Hey everybody, my name is Bree. I'm a nurse practitioner here in Georgia. I practice in the ICU setting at several different institutions. I made a video last week talking about what I was seeing in the hospital, and it was very well received, which in many ways did not surprise me, because I think that when we're at war, people at home need to know what's happening on the front lines in order to bolster their support. And I don't think that you guys respond well to numbers and data. I think you really need to hear front lines. I was surprised at how far the message went, though. So I thought I'd give you a little update about how things are looking this week. The numbers, I do have good news, yay! The numbers that I'm seeing are plateaued. So they're very high, but there's not the steep rise that we were seeing earlier this week. I don't know what to make of that. I'm talking about maybe 2-3 days at most worth of data. So I don't know what that means yet. It may be too early to say that, but I'm encouraged that it's not continuing that steep trajectory up. So that's the good news in this. The bad news is that even though the numbers are not steeply rising, the amount of available resources is dwindling, and that is scary. That is really scary. And when I say resources, I'm not just talking about equipment. And equipment would be like ventilators, dialysis machines, because many of these folks end up having to go on dialysis. It's the available staff to run these resources, the nurses at the bedside who are wearing thin, working long shifts and in rough conditions, the very specially trained professionals who cannot be replaced. So dialysis, some dialysis can be done by ICU nurses, and we do something called CRRT, where it's a continuous dialysis run over 24 hours. It requires a lot of manpower, and these are already sick people, so you're talking about additional manpower. But the big hindrance there is that there's just not enough machines. Most of these people are going to get traditional dialysis that's run over 4 hours, and there are not a lot of nurses who can do that. Those are non-ICU nurses. They're specially trained. It's a very specific field that not a lot of people can do, and you just can't find any more people to do it. You know, if one dialysis nurse is running a patient for 4 hours, well, she can only do so many in a given day. So when everybody's requiring dialysis and there's not enough nurses to run all the machines, that's a problem. And God love them. The backbone of America right now, y'all, that's not getting the attention they deserve are our respiratory therapists, who are brilliant individuals who are really taking care of these folks. They are coming up with some very creative ways. They are fighting for their patients. They are such good advocates, but they are specially trained and they cannot be replaced. Nobody else can do their job. So these are also, mind you, the people who are at the greatest risk of contracting it. So they are inches away from these people's faces. You know, when they're on circuit, on a ventilator circuit here, and the tube pops out and COVID goes spraying in the room, they're the people that are 6 inches away from them. So they are the most at risk of contracting this. So God forbid any of them get sick, because if even one of them goes out, there's no one to take their spot. So resources, when I say resources, I'm not just talking about the equipment, I'm talking about the people to run these things. So those are tied up, and they're tied up because of the trajectory of this disease. So what we see are, most people will say, I'm home for 5 days or a week with symptoms. They get sick, they come in the hospital. They either get tubed in the ED, they go to the floor, they get tubed within 3 to 5 days after that. And then another 3 to 5 days after they're tubed, they either crash and die or they don't. Yay! But the downside to the don't is these people require a very long trajectory of ICU care, talking 3 to 4 weeks on a ventilator and more than that in an ICU. And those are astronomical numbers. To put it into perspective, in a non-pandemic time, people stay on the ventilator for a week, a couple of days, a week. At absolute most, we're talking 11, 12, 13 days. And these people, these COVID patients, we're talking about 3 to 4 times as long. So even though our numbers are kind of plateaued, and they're still high, but they're plateaued, we still have available resources. But these resources are being consumed for a long period of time. So as long as the numbers of people coming in still just trickle in, we'll be okay. But if we hit another surge, because all y'all wanted to celebrate Easter together, or your natives are getting restless and you got to go out, hang out with your neighbors, and you're spreading it, if we get another surge, we are up the creek. So keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a good job. Stay home. But it's not time to reopen things at all. Nope. And I don't want to sound insensitive. I am acutely aware of the stress that so many of you are under financially, being furloughed, potentially losing your job or your company. I can't imagine what kind of stress that puts on you. I do. And I think it's widespread. I think there are a lot of people going through that. But while I have sympathy for you, it only goes so far. And that's going to sound cold-hearted, but as someone who's watching these people suffer and die without their loved ones, to me, who cares about the money? It's just money, right? I am sure that the economic fallout of this is going to be unlike anything we've seen. But you know, we as a society have recovered from depressions before, and we will again. And you may go through some major life changes because of financial changes. But if your family's with you and none of them died, is that not a win? You know, I don't know. Life is about more than money. It's about our relationships. And you don't want you or your loved one to be that person up in the ICU dying alone. If you go out into the world and your odds of contracting it and dying from it are only 3%, are you still willing to take that risk? You know, I'm not. And I'm not willing to put my family at that kind of a risk. So stay the course. Stay the course. It's going to be fine. God has this. He always does. And that's my update for the week. And I hope everybody is doing well and you're surviving isolation. See you soon. Bye.